Manila shimmered under the tropical afternoon sun in the exclusive district of Makati, where luxury boutiques attracted the Filipino elite and wealthy tourists. A black sedan stopped in front of an internationally renowned store. Dionisia Pacquiao, a 70-year-old woman dressed simply but neatly, stepped out of the vehicle, her hands marked by decades of hard work in the fields of General Santos, held a small cloth purse. Despite her son Manny becoming one of the world's most famous boxers and a political figure in the country, she never abandoned her characteristic humility. The driver indicated he would wait while she shopped. Dionisia entered the store, whose interior dramatically contrasted with Manila's bustling streets. Imported marble floors, meticulously designed lighting, and shelves displaying items whose prices exceeded many Filipinos' annual salaries. In a corner of the store, Ricardo Lim, the Filipino-Chinese manager, observed the new customer with disdain. With his Italian suit and aristocratic bearing, he perfectly embodied the image of Manila's economic elite. For him, each customer was quickly evaluated based on appearance, and Dionisia, with her provincial dress and unhurried walk, did not meet his strict standards of exclusivity. Dionisia calmly browsed the aisles, admiring the displayed items. She wanted to buy a gift for her son's wife as thanks for organizing an upcoming charity gala. Her eyes settled on a beautiful crocodile skin handbag, an exclusive piece from the new collection. A young Visayan saleswoman approached Dionisia kindly, but Ricardo quickly intervened, sending the employee to attend to the accessories section. With a forced smile, Ricardo suggested Dionisia look for something more appropriate for her budget, using an openly condescending tone and alternating between Tagalog and English to intimidate her. When Dionisia insisted on seeing the handbag priced at 150,000 Philippine pesos, Ricardo openly displayed his contempt. He suggested she visit the markets of Divisoria or Green Hills, implying that a provincial woman couldn't afford to shop at that establishment. Despite Dionisia stating she had sufficient money, Ricardo remained inflexible in his discrimination, making derogatory comments about her Mindanao accent. An elegantly dressed older woman, Maria Reyes, a prominent philanthropist. From an old landed family matriarch from Negros, Maria Reyes, had accidentally witnessed the scene and promptly intervened, reprimanding Ricardo for his unacceptable behavior. Embarrassed but maintaining her dignity, Dionisia left the store, holding back tears as she passed by the luxurious display windows that reflected her silhouette, bent from years of hard work. Maria Reyes followed her outside and found her seated on a bench facing the shopping complex's central fountain. At 65 years old, Maria, a widow of an important sugar industrialist and a recognized patron of the arts, approached Pacquiao's mother, visibly affected by the unjust treatment she had endured. Maria introduced herself and apologized for the manager's behavior, expressing her shame as a regular customer of the boutique. During their conversation, Dionisia shared aspects of her life in General Santos City and the struggles of raising her children alone after her husband abandoned them. Without revealing her famous son's identity, she spoke of her small vegetable business and how she had worked tirelessly so her children could study. Moved by her resilience and quiet dignity, Maria offered to accompany her to other stores where she would be treated with the respect she deserved. For the next few hours, both women toured the shopping center, with Maria using her influence as a known and respected customer to introduce Dionisia to kind salespeople who received her with deference. Eventually, Dionisia found a beautiful Filipino silk shawl for her daughter-in-law in a local designer's boutique. While sharing Halo at a traditional cafe, Maria explained that her kindness was rooted in a similar experience she had endured years ago, when she had been scorned, in a Hong Kong jewelry store before inheriting her family's fortune. As they parted, the two women exchanged phone numbers, with Maria offering her help during Dionisia's stay in Manila. 3 days later, Maria received devastating news from her doctor at St. Luke's Hospital. Her test results showed advanced cancer requiring specialized treatment available only in Singapore or the United States. Despite her wealth, much of her fortune was committed to an educational foundation, and the costly treatment would require selling historic family properties. Meanwhile, Dionisia had returned to the Pacquiao mansion in Forbes Park, where she was temporarily staying with her son. She decided not to mention the incident at the store. Dionisia chose not to mention the incident to avoid distracting Manny from his commitments to the upcoming charity exhibition at the Araneta Coliseum, an event aimed at raising funds for children with chronic diseases in the poorest areas of Mindanao. Ricardo, for his part, received a severe reprimand from regional management following a formal complaint filed by Mrs. Reyes, whose family happened to be a minority shareholder in the business group that owned the boutique. However, his arrogance blinded him to his wrongdoing. He blamed Dionisia for not appearing like a high-class customer and for her provincial accent. That evening, as Ricardo dined alone in his luxury condominium in Rockwell, he watched news coverage of Manny Pacquiao's upcoming exhibition match with thinly veiled contempt. He changed the channel dismissively, convinced that people from humble origins, like Pacquiao, could never truly belong to the Filipino elite, no matter their wealth or global recognition. To him, real class stemmed from old family names and elite education, not hard-earned success. Meanwhile, in her ancestral home in Nueva Manila, Maria Reyes reviewed her finances with growing concern. The treatment she required far exceeded what she could liquidate without jeopardizing her charitable foundations. She considered selling heirloom family jewels, though they would barely cover the initial medical costs. Before going to sleep, she gazed at a photograph taken with Dionisia, fondly recalling the graceful, kind, provincial woman whose quiet dignity had deeply touched her. The boxing exhibition at the Araneta Coliseum had generated massive national anticipation, with tickets sold out weeks in advance and media coverage from around the world. Manny Pacquiao, national pride, sports icon, and senator, drew throngs of admirers wherever he went in the archipelago. Dionisia sat in a privileged front-row seat, watching her son with maternal pride, elegantly dressed in a traditional Filipino terno. Beside her was an empty seat, reserved for a special guest who had yet to arrive. In her residence, Maria sipped jasmine tea as she turned on the television. The ABS-CBN Evening News aired live images of Manny's arrival at the Coliseum, and upon seeing Dionisia walking beside the national hero, Maria dropped her porcelain cup in stunned realization. The simple, soft-spoken woman she had befriended was none other than Mommy D, the beloved and iconic mother of the Filipino legend. Backstage, in the dressing rooms of the Coliseum, Manny received a sealed envelope from his assistant. Inside was a letter from Ricardo. Lim, the luxury store manager, had sent the letter to personally apologize for the recent mistreatment of Dionisia, admitting he had been unaware of her identity and family connection. Confused by this information, which his mother had never mentioned, Manny called for her. With tears in her eyes, Dionisia finally recounted the incident at the store and Maria Reyes's unexpected kindness. Deeply upset by the disrespect shown to his mother, Manny embraced her tightly, then instructed his assistant to locate Maria Reyes and extend a personal invitation to the post-event reception at the Manila Hotel. The exhibition proved to be a resounding success. To thunderous ovations from his compatriots, Manny showcased the talent and discipline that had made him the only boxer in history to win world titles in 8 different weight categories. The fundraising surpassed all expectations, generating significant support for schools and hospitals in Mindanao's most underserved regions. That evening, the celebratory reception was held in the historic Fiesta Pavilion of the Manila Hotel, drawing together leading figures from Filipino politics, sports, and high society. The elegant colonial halls were filled with senators, celebrities, business magnates, and dignitaries. Manny, wearing a finely embroidered barong Tagalog, stood beside his wife Jinky and his proud mother as they received guests. Maria arrived at the reception dressed in a traditional piña fiber Filipino terno, still processing the revelation that the humble woman she had helped was the mother of the legendary fighter. Upon seeing her, Dionisia rushed toward Maria with open arms, and the two women embraced as cameras flashed, capturing the poignant moment. Maria, still astonished by the connection, confessed she had acted from principle and compassion, never expecting recognition or reward. Manny warmly welcomed her, expressing heartfelt gratitude for her kindness during a time when others had shown cruelty, and introduced her to the attendees as a true embodiment of Filipino values. At that moment, Ricardo entered the hall, having received a personal invitation from Manny without understanding the reason. The sight that met him, Dionisia standing proudly beside her son, now surrounded by the nation's most powerful and respected figures, left him pale with shock. Photographers caught his stunned expression as the weight of his mistake settled in. Manny approached him with a solemn expression, while the entire room watched in tense silence. Contrary to the administrator's expectations, who feared a public reprimand or career-ending scandal, Manny Pacquiao extended his hand to Ricardo, calmly stating that his mother had taught him everyone deserves a second chance. But that respect must always transcend appearances and social standing. Deeply embarrassed, Ricardo shook Manny's hand and then turned to Dionisia, offering a sincere apology. Under the watchful eyes of the country's most influential personalities, the boxer's mother accepted his remorse with the same characteristic serenity that had endeared her to the Filipino public, hoping the experience would teach him never to judge others based on appearance or provincial accent. As the reception continued with toasts and congratulations, Manny noticed a shadow of concern on Maria's face, despite the celebratory mood. In a quiet moment by one of the hotel's historic balconies overlooking Manila Bay, Maria finally confided in him about her medical diagnosis and the struggle she faced in affording treatment abroad without jeopardizing her charitable work. Without discussing it with her, Manny discreetly instructed his team to act. The next day, Maria received a call from the prestigious Raffles Medical Group in Singapore, informing her that all expenses, treatment, travel, and accommodations had been fully covered by the Pacquiao Foundation. Moved to tears, Maria called Dionisia, initially unable to accept such an extraordinary gesture, but Dionisia gently explained that it was not charity, but justice. Maria had offered moral support during a moment of humiliation, and now Manny was offering medical support in her time of need, an expression of bayani, the Filipino spirit of community and mutual aid. Meanwhile, Ricardo was undergoing a personal transformation. The humility displayed by the Pacquiao family in response to his own disgraceful behavior, especially from individuals of such stature, had left a lasting impression. Instead of pushing for his dismissal, Manny had spoken privately with the store's ownership, suggesting that Ricardo could redeem himself through meaningful action. Inspired by the opportunity, Ricardo initiated substantial changes within the store. He launched a series of customer service workshops centered on Filipino cultural diversity, promoting respect for regional accents and traditions across the archipelago. Ricardo personally contacted previously mistreated customers to offer heartfelt apologies and implemented a strict non-discrimination policy within the store. Else, the young Visayan saleswoman who had witnessed Dionisia's earlier mistreatment noticed the profound change in her supervisor. During a staff meeting, she mustered the courage to ask Ricardo what had led to his transformation. Reflecting deeply, Ricardo shared that he had come to realize true elegance does not reside in surnames, elite education, or purchasing power, but in treating all people with respect, regardless of their provincial origins or regional accents. 6 months later, Manny Pacquiao returned from his international engagements to inaugurate a new community center in Bicol, one of Manila's most impoverished neighborhoods. The center would offer boxing training, academic support, and free medical care to at-risk youth, many of them migrants from the provinces, just as Manny had once been when he arrived in the capital in search of opportunity. Among the honored attendees were Maria, fully recovered from her treatment in Singapore, and to the surprise of many, Ricardo, now a volunteer with the Pacquiao Foundation, teaching business skills to young people from marginalized communities. During the opening ceremony, before an audience of children from Bicol and representatives across various sectors of society, Manny shared the stage with his mother Maria and Ricardo. He explained that the community center had been born from a series of interconnected events, beginning with an unfortunate act of discrimination and followed by a simple yet powerful gesture of kindness. It was, he said, a real-life example of his mother's lifelong teaching that adversity can be turned into opportunity through bayanihan, the Filipino spirit of communal solidarity. Dionisia, with the humble grace that had made her a beloved national figure, spoke next, reaffirming the essential equality of all Filipinos, regardless of background, wealth, or appearance, and reminding everyone that true wealth is found in how one treats others and in pride for one's provincial roots. Maria shared how her small act of compassion toward a stranger had not only saved her life but given her new purpose, supporting the community center, which would now also offer care for children with cancer. Finally, Ricardo addressed the young, people of Bicol, many of whom spoke with provincial accents like the one he had once mocked. With humility, he acknowledged the hard lessons he had learned about the deep-rooted dangers of regional discrimination and elitism within Filipino culture. Society. He announced that his company had created an internship program for youth from marginalized communities, offering them training in customer service and administration. After the ceremony, the four shared a private moment in the Cent's office. Decorated with photographs of young boxers from all the country's provinces, Ricardo presented Dionisia with the same handbag she had wanted to buy that day as part of the corporate apology. Dionisia, smiling, preferred that its value be donated to the Cent's scholarship program, expressing that she no longer needed status symbols to feel valued. Manny proudly contemplated his mother. Despite the international fame, fortune, and political power, he had achieved the values she had instilled. In him, in General Santos, his humility and respect for everyone, regardless of their origin, remained his greatest treasure. Maria took Dionic's hands, reflecting on how her act of helping a provincial woman who seemed out of place in Marti had unexpectedly transformed her own life. Giving her a second chance, Dionisia attributed the merit to the bayan-han, the Filipino community spirit that transcends social classes and regions. As evening fell over Manila Bay, the four observed from the window the Cent's courtyard where children from the poorest neighborhoods, many arriving from distant provinces, practiced boxing under professional supervision. Their laughter and enthusiasm symbolized the promise of a future where social barriers and regional discrimination could be torn down one punch at a time. Ricardo, contemplating the scene, finally understood that true exclusivity did not reside in the luxury items he marketed or in his elitist education, but in the human capacity to transform mistakes into opportunities. For growth, reconnection with cultural roots, and reconciliation among Filipinos of all regions and social classes. And so, from an unfortunate encounter between seemingly opposite worlds in the Philippine capital, was born a legacy of respect and opportunity that would transcend any boxing title, political position, or luxury item, uniting a country frequently divided by geography, dialect, and social class. If you like this kind of story, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next videos.